Welcome to this explainer. Today we're diving into a pretty wild, honestly kind of meditative exploration of nature, sound, and what I can only describe as a highly accidental minimalist poem. You know, we spend so much of our time online scrolling through content that is intensely structured, right? Fast-paced edits, loud arguments, the whole shebang. But what happens when we look at the exact opposite? We're going to examine a full hour-long nature video, but here's the catch. Our focus isn't actually going to be on the sweeping, gorgeous vistas. Instead, we're zeroing in on the weird, quirky digital footprint left behind by the AI that tried to transcribe it.
What happens when floating music speaks? Well, we're going to slowly deconstruct the mysteries hidden inside the incredibly brief transcript of an ambient wildlife video. Think about that for a second. An ambient wildlife video is pretty much entirely devoid of human speech, yet the automated systems running in the background of our platforms, they're programmed to relentlessly hunt for language. They literally can't help themselves. When an algorithm listens to a full hour of pure atmospheric instrumental music and, just leaves rustling in the wind, what does it actually hear? Does it hear nothing? Or does it, in this endless, desperate search for human connection, basically invent a language of its own?
Part 1. Let's look at the grand visual promise of this footage. The source material here immediately sets up this incredibly bold visual premise by promising us exactly 1 full hour of pristine footage. We aren't dealing with a quick 10-second viral clip here, folks. A 60-minute runtime? That demands a totally different level of engagement. It's really an invitation to just slow down, step away from the absolute chaos of our daily lives, and immerse ourselves in a sustained, uninterrupted environment. The title preps us for this immersive 4K Ultra HD journey into untamed wild animals and expansive wildlife scenery. And the language used here is super intentional. 4K Ultra HD promises a level of visual fidelity that's probably sharper and more vibrant than my own eyesight, honestly. We're being offered this hyper-real version of nature, safely observed from the absolute comfort of our living rooms.
But here is what's delightfully paradoxical about all this. Our digital escape into the deep wild was actually curated and uploaded by a channel named, wait for it, 4K Urban Life. I absolutely love this detail. It tells us so much about the human condition and how we interact with media today. We've got a channel whose entire identity is deeply rooted in the concrete jungle, the hustle and bustle, right? The hyper-connected modern metropolis. Yet they are the exact ones delivering this pristine, hour-long escape into the wilderness. It is wonderfully ironic that our window into untamed nature is packaged by the very urbanity we're probably trying to escape from. It really suggests that our craving for the wild is totally tangled up with our modern urban existence. The urban life literally requires the wildlife as an antidote. But notice that antidote is still packaged, compressed, uploaded, and streamed right through the city's technological infrastructure. We're consuming the wild, but on strictly urban terms. It's kind of like a digital terrarium, built by city dwellers, for city dwellers, just to briefly forget the city.
This brings us to the auditory layer of the video. The title simply describes it as featuring floating music. And floating is such a spot-on adjective here. This isn't some heavy driving beat. It's not a grand symphony with a clear narrative arc and a big dramatic climax. No, it's music designed to just hover in the background. It fills the silence without ever demanding your active attention. It's atmospheric, ethereal, and totally structureless by design. It's meant to just wash over you while you watch these 4K animals graze. But like we talked about earlier, algorithms, they don't know how to passively listen. They absolutely have to structure the structureless.
And this brilliantly illustrates what happens when automated transcription tries to decipher that ambient soundscape. It generated this hyper-minimalist 11-word transcript. Out of an entire hour of floating music and wildlife scenery, the system squeezed out exactly these words. So, do, do you. That is literally the entirety of the text. It's absolutely fascinating. The machine strained its digital ears against 60 minutes of wordless atmosphere and somehow hallucinated this tiny, beautiful, totally accidental poem. But where in the world did these specific words even come from?
Well, the crucial point here is that we can actually view these words as a literal translation of solfege syllables, capturing the musical notes drifting along in the background. The algorithm didn't just pull random English words out of thin air. It was most likely picking up the actual tonal frequencies of the synthesizer or whatever instruments they used for that floating music. You know music theory, right? Do, re, mi, fa, sol, la, ti, do assigns a syllable to every note in a scale. So the AI heard the dominant notes of the track, probably the root note do so and the perfect fifth, so, and just transcribed them literally. It's literally a machine desperately trying to find human language, and when it couldn't, it fell back on the foundational building blocks of music itself. But hold on, because this isn't just a random jumble of solfege syllables. When we look closely at how the algorithm laid these words out, we see an undeniable rhythmic structure. Even in floating ambient music, there is rhythm, and the AI managed to visually capture the cadence of the audio track. By treating this super sparse text with deep artistic reverence, we can see how the transcript actually creates a hypnotic, repeating loop. Check out the breakdown of the rhythm here. It starts with an establishing rhythm on beat 1, so, and then it just settles right into a groove. Do so, do so, do so. It's almost like a heartbeat, or maybe the gentle, predictable lapping of water against a shoreline, which, honestly, perfectly matches the visual of wildlife scenery. We are essentially looking at the sheet music of the machine's mind. The algorithm documented the oscillation of those ambient chords flawlessly. This rhythmic repetition of syllables perfectly mirrors the relaxing, cyclical nature of watching an hour of ambient scenery. I mean, nature itself operates on loops, right? The sun rises and sets, seasons change, animals migrate, and then they return. The floating music mimics this natural cycle, oscillating gently between do and so. And the transcript, entirely by accident, visually represents this meditation. If you actually read it out loud, so, do so, do so, do so, it becomes a mantra. It totally lulls you into the exact same state of passive relaxation that the 4K video was designed to induce in the very first place.
But then, after 9 repetitive musical beats, the pattern breaks entirely. The final 2 words dramatically shift the focus completely away from the scenery and point it directly onto the viewer. This is exactly where this accidental transcript elevates from a quirky tech glitch into something genuinely profound. Right at the very end, the solfege just disappears. The rhythm breaks. The algorithm suddenly finds real conversational English buried deep in that floating music. It stops being a passive observer of the soundscape, and it turns the camera, metaphorically speaking, right back at us.
The transcript abruptly ends the entire hour of wildlife with 3 words. So do you. It completely turns an ambient video into a final, provocative question that leaves us pondering our own connection to the wild. After an hour of watching untamed animals exist peacefully in their habitat, after being lulled into a literal trance by the repeating do so of the floating music, the machine looks right at us and says, so do you. What does it actually mean? Does it mean that the wild animals exist naturally, and so do you? Does it mean the music floats aimlessly, and so do you? It takes this hour-long escape from urban life and transforms it into a profound mirror. What is your role in this ecosystem? You've spent an hour watching the wild. So, what do you do now?